everybody. Welcome to another Wednesday. It's time for the breakdown. Time to laugh and forget about what's going on just for a little bit because the Lord knows I need to forget about what's going on for a second. I'm your host, Catherine, aka the High Heeled Gamer, and today we are breaking down a very cool artist. He's worked for DC, Image, IDW, just to name a few. Ladies and gentlemen, nerds all around, please welcome Aaron Bartling. Bam!
Woo! What's up, guys?
I owe you $1.
Thank you. For the first time in breakdown history, I got a name right.
It only took 20 minutes of practice.
I know, 100% saying it 3,000 times. How are you doing, Aaron?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Shockingly, I'm good. It's a stressful time.
Modelo.
Yeah. I got everybody knows I'm a screwdriver kind of girl, and that's what we're partaking in today.
Love it.
So, Aaron, you have been working with comic book in the comic book industry for a hot minute. What's that like? Like, how is it? Because you're a freelancer now, right?
Yeah, so I'm a freelancer, and actually, I haven't really been in the industry very long. Just hitting November is a year that I've officially been working in the industry. So, yeah, so not too long. But honestly, it's been amazing, and especially after I kind of had a slow start, but immediately after Ronin dropped, that's when things just blew up for me. And then and then it's just been hitting the ground running ever since that came out. So
I got misinformation, and I was told that you've been in it for a minute, so I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good. You're totally fine. I mean, I guess you could say a year is kind of a long time. So
this year, if we're counting this year, yeah, it's been a long year. We've done 2020 4 years in a row, and this is what it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
So with you getting your foot in the door per se, you said it all blew up when Ronin dropped, which actually are you saying like when they announced that Ronin was happening, or was it like when it released last week?
Yeah, so for me, once Ronin got announced, it gained a lot of traction really fast, and a lot of people were really excited about it. And so that's why when Denton reached out to me to do it, I jumped on it right away because I just had a feeling, just this gut feeling, especially Ninja Turtles, that it was going to be pretty big, and especially reading the premise and kind of what it was going to be about. I was obviously all in to do it. So. But no, things didn't really blow up for me until the cover actually got released.
Wow.
It was honestly insane because the day that it got released to social media, it was like doing okay. There was like a lot of positive feedback, but it was just crazy because the day I went to bed and I woke up not too early. I think it was around 9 or 10 a.m. and I hop on Facebook and I just have like a million notifications. And I was like, what is going on? So, I'm like seeing what everyone's saying. And it literally, within like 24 hours, it I guess you could say went viral, and it was just all over. There's people sharing it. I was going on pages and it had like 150,000 shares.
Wow.
I would go on another page, 100,000 shares. It was just crazy. So, and I was getting, messages left and right from people. And it was, I have no problem being transparent and being open. And like, I usually don't really get emotional, but I legitimately got emotional that morning because it was just so overwhelming, and especially being so new to the industry and just starting out and, having a book, blow up like that. It was just, it was a lot, and not in a bad way, in a good way. It was just like overwhelming, just excitement of just seeing the positive support and feedback. And it was awesome. So.
I was actually going to ask you about like how you felt. Like, did it feel like an outer body experience? Like, I can't believe this is happening to me. Because you hear that story quite often when it comes to things going viral. It's like you post it, you go to sleep, you wake up, and it's like emotional. But was it more like an outer body experience? Like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening to me. Or was it like, heck yeah, it's finally happening to me?
It was kind of a mixture of both. You know, I thought that it would do okay, but I honestly never thought that it would blow up the way it did. So it was definitely a really surreal feeling. Definitely kind of an out of body kind of experience, and just thinking like, is this really happening right now? Is it really taking off? Because yeah, it was insane. So yeah, it was definitely an exciting. Not only that first day, but the days to follow. It was just it got actually the day after it got released, it blew up, but it was crazy because the following days it just kept going. Like it was just more and more people sharing it, and I was like, this is nuts. And it got to the point where, so for me, the way I view it is, working in the comic industry is that, yes, I do work for the retailers, and yes, I do work for the publishers. But when it comes down to it, I work for the fans, and that's who I'm working for, and so I always try to make it a point to respond to everyone that I can,
Aww.
and to like show my gratitude, whether it's every single message, an email, a comment, whatever. I'm trying to respond to everybody because I do care, and I do want to show that, I'm want to show that gratitude. So it was hard because there was just so
So
many people that were messaging me and commenting, and it was like, I got my family, I got other client work I'm trying to work on.
Yeah.
So it became difficult to try to get back to everyone because it was just so chaotic for a while. But yeah, so if you're watching this and I didn't respond to you, I'm really sorry. Absolute best to respond to every single person I could. But like I said, there was
it's
just
tough. Like when you have like 100,000, you're like cramping up and stuff. You're like, okay, I gotta
and
go
it
to
was
sleep.
hard too because I was super busy at the time, just working on other covers, and it was like I can't neglect those. A lot of them had deadlines and stuff, so I couldn't let that go by the wayside.
Right.
And so I was trying to balance, trying to respond to everyone, try to work, and then also have a little bit of just downtime just for like my mental sanity. So
Yeah.
yeah,
How did your family feel about it? Like, did they know, like, is your family like social media, like people, or did you have to tell them like, hey guys, this is what's happening?
yeah. I mean, so my wife, obviously, she knew everything that was going on because I was telling her. And then, like my mom and my dad, they follow me on social media, so they all saw. My sisters, they saw what was going on, so they were just, they're texting me like, "Oh my gosh, that's so crazy! Everything that's going on with you and your Ronin book." And so it was cool. It was nice to have support from family and close friends, calling me or messaging me, just showing their support. So yeah, it was great. So
That sounds so cool. It's always good to hear when your family supports you, especially, well, from what I've heard, especially when you tell them like, "Hey, I'm gonna be an artist," and they're like,
yeah,
"But
yeah,
how about a real job?" Like I've heard so many artists say that they're like,
yeah, yeah.
and then they finally come around to it because they have no choice type of thing. Was your family like off the bat like, yes, go ahead, or did you have to encourage them to support
So,
you?
yeah, no, honestly, like there's so many people I know that have gone through that experience. Luckily for me, I never really had to deal with that. My family is always really supportive of it, and I think early on, because they saw that I was pretty decent at art, they were like, okay, maybe he has a shot with it, Like, and I know that's sad because that a lot of families will give the sympathy. Oh, little Johnny, that's such a cute little drawing or whatever.
My thing is that you're like, they were like, I'm decent at it. If like, I'm
Yeah.
sure you was better than decent.
Yeah, let's be honest.
Yeah,
I
you
was
was
okay.
good. Yeah, because I mean, I stalked your Instagram, and one of the things I stalk all our guests, so don't feel special.
Okay.
I stalk all our guests. But one of the things that I like about your art is that you play so well with the lighting of the art pieces that you're doing. Yeah, like that one, I think there was one of Mary Jane, and it kind of looks like it's not bar cells, I'm pretty sure it's not, but it has that pattern where it's shade, light,
Yeah,
shade. Was
yeah.
that hard to get, or was that something that she was like,
This
that one, there it is, that's the one.
Oh yeah, that
Yeah.
yeah, the what did I call that print? I think I called it like Hey Spider or something like that. But yeah, it's supposed to be Mary Jane kind of Spider-Man thing. But yeah, no, like so for something like that, since I painted it digitally, like there's just little tricks you can do with Photoshop. So I would so for that, for example, so I'd paint the whole thing, right?
Okay.
The face would be completely in light. And then what I would do is I would take a somewhat light blue background and I would just paint drop the whole thing over it. So the whole piece would be covered in a blue. And then I would set it to like a multiply layer on Photoshop. And then I would
Hmm.
lower the opacity so it's not too dark. And then with my stylus, the handy dandy style,
Yeah.
I would go in and I would start. I would basically just do this. I would drag a line down, drag another line down, and then I would just see, okay, how would basically what I was envisioning was maybe it's an early morning, maybe it's a sunset, and kind of just this serene moment of her, looking at this spider who obviously is kind of supposed to be like Spider-Man. And so I
Hmm.
wanted that really moody atmospheric lighting. So I thought maybe the sun is peering through and these are blinds, so that was kind of that's the look I was going for, was trying to get like, the light from the sun shooting in from the blinds. So, and it actually worked out pretty nicely with, just playing around and experimenting with how the light might look. So,
Nailed it,
oh,
honestly.
Yeah, yeah, and I was gonna say I'm not comparing you to who I'm about to say, but Marcus Williams also does really great with lighting
uh,
as well, and it amazes me when it's like that, because a lot of times artists tend to struggle with lighting,
mhm,
and it ends up looking kind of dull, and they miss the mark.
yeah,
And you two are the only ones that I've seen that actually like can can actually execute it the right way, where it's like that looks like light. Like,
yeah.
now is that's all digital, right?
That's all digital, yeah. So I think
Adobe.
one of the main things that I strive for with my work is, I think, yeah, for sure, lighting is really important. But I think if I could say the most important thing that artists should strive for is, even before color, is to make sure your values are all reading. So,
Mm.
when you're looking at it, you want to have, I mean, there's a lot to it, but basically you want to have a good graphic read, so you want to have your contrast, it like where, okay, so like for example, yeah, with that Joker piece. So your eye is going right to where it's the brightest, right? That's the most
Hmm.
contrast. That's where I wanted the focal point, which is his face, so you want to have a clear graphic read with your values. So like a light or a highlight, and then a mid-tone, and then a shadow tones, or your darks. And then so that's kind of what I strive for, and I try to keep my values not too complicated, because the more complicated you make your values, that's when things start to get lost. So,
Oh, okay.
so with that, that's kind of, so with that piece, with that Joker piece, what I was going for was kind of just basically a two value read. So you have your lights and darks basically, and then a rim
Mhm.
light on the side of his face. So the visual read of it is strong when you look at it. Um, so I would say that even before lighting, making sure that your values are solid, and if and you can get good at that just by working in black and white. So that's actually how I started, was when I first started painting. I didn't really work in color too much. I worked
Oh,
a lot in grayscale. And then once I felt comfortable moving into color, because I felt like I understood values, and I
Okay.
understood how things should look in a black and white. So actually, and when I'm painting, I actually have a shortcut on my keyboard that I can hit because I'm working on an iMac. So I can
Oh.
hit Command Y, and what that does is it changes my screen to a grayscale. So
Oh.
I can be working in color, and I'm constantly switching back and forth between color and black and white. And so
Hmm.
and that way I can see, every time I'm making a significant change in the painting, I can see, okay, are these values reading right? And then, obviously if I'm making an error, then I can go back, make that correction, and then move forward. So,
Do you
Can I?
only work in Photoshop, or do you work in other Adobe suites?
I yeah, I've always worked. I mean, I've worked in Illustrator a little bit, but that's a more vector-based program. So for more
Mhm.
graphic artists. But yeah, I would say Photoshop has always been my go-to. And then I also have an iPad Pro that I use Procreate sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can
so
I just say that
Procreate's actually pretty cool. It's not as good and beefy as Photoshop, but it's a pretty solid program. I feel like if you're wanting to paint on the go and kind of just have something more for a sketch application,
Hmm.
then I would say Procreate
it's
is pretty solid.
it's fascinating to me to hear you talk about the way that you're balancing light and color, because you're actually like what I hear, because I come from more of the video side of things and production, video production. So
Yeah,
what I hear is like you sound like a DP, you sound like a director of photography, like understanding those balances of light and color is exactly why one film looks amazing and another one
yeah,
doesn't.
Yeah.
they're
And
very. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh, no, I was just gonna say, and in post production as an editor, I always think in terms of like alpha. Like if I'm keying something out, we work in alphas, which is, Kat, I don't know if you're familiar with the idea of it, but it's like black and white. I know you're
Mhm.
studying, but the
Yeah.
black and white alpha
Yeah,
is a quick way to look at something and really understand, like, am I keying this correctly?
Yeah.
Like what are the scales? What are the ratios here? Like where's the focus? And am
Hmm.
I actually creating clean lines?
yeah.
Or or am I going to be really frustrated in like
Yeah.
10 minutes when I realize they're all jaggedy?
Yeah.
Where did you get your start? Just out of curiosity, did you go to school for art or?
So actually, I grew up being artistic, but I never really took art seriously. I actually had a conversation with my mom recently about it, and she was like, I only really brought you to a few art classes growing up. Just maybe intro to design or something. Excuse me. Nothing, really serious. And just in the past 10 years is when I've like really taken it
Oh
seriously.
wow.
Um,
Hmm.
and that's when I started working digitally. Was about 9 or 10 years ago, and and when I first started, I was only when I actually started charging people for art when I was getting somewhat decent at it. I was working with bands, and that was kind of my niche. Is I was working with metal bands, so I was doing a lot of like dark, gritty
Mhm.
album art, with
Yeah.
skulls and all kinds of crazy,
Nice.
intense stuff. So I would do like T-shirts and album art and logos and uh, and all that kind of stuff. And then yeah, I never honestly thought that I would be working. If you would have asked me 10 years ago, oh, where do you think I'd be? I never would have thought, oh, I'm working as a professional illustrator. Yeah.
What were you doing before?
So right now, I would say art is my full time gig because that's mostly what I'm doing. But I actually work at UPS as well. Yeah, it's
Not what I thought you was gonna say.
really random. Yeah, so I actually work at UPS, and I've been there for next year will be 7 years.
Wow.
So I work there, and it's mostly I'm only staying there because the benefits are actually really good at that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Word.
Especially being in Southern California where everything's just like ridiculously expensive. It's like I have friends who are paying 2 grand a month just for health benefits, and so
Mhm.
to work at a company, and I only work 3 hours a day there.
Oh wow.
So technically, I'm only and there 5 days a week, so I work about 15 hours a week to have uh, basically amazing benefits. I'm either at 80% to 100% covered with anything. So and I got a family, I got a couple kids, So,
He says it so nonchalantly. I got a couple of kids.
I named them 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another one on the way, actually.
Oh wow!
Oh, congratulations!
Wow. Yeah. I would love to say congratulations, but I have 3 kids, and it's like, keep the vodka stocked. Yeah. Keep the vodka stocked.
You poor bastard.
Yeah.
No, they're great. So that's kind of the reason I stay there, is just because I mean, technically financially I could leave and be fine, but it's just a matter of, hey, if someone needs benefits for something, to have that and not have to pay out of pocket is amazing. And for only having to work, most people have to work 40 hours a week in order to get really solid benefits.
Mm-hmm.
So for me to only work 15 I'm like, oh, okay, I can suck it up and do it.
My husband worked for UPS too, and he said the same thing. Like, they had great benefits, and then he joined the Air Force, and he was like,
oh wow,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. He's out now, but he always talks about UPS being one of like the best jobs he's done. So,
I like how you said out like it was prison.
well, I was going to say something. He's out now. He served his time, did his time. He's out on parole. He's got no.
Yeah.
He retired very nicely.
Well, he was in the Air Force?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm an Army guy, so I served in the Army for 4 years.
Oh wow, no, he did 15, and I married into it. Like, he was already in when.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was like,
cool.
all right, fine.
Yeah. Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with the pandemic and the shutdown and the quarantine stuff, you still doing UPS stuff, or?
Yeah, so we're actually we're considered essential. So just because you can't shut down the shipments of valuable goods and supplies. So we, even through the whole pandemic, we still been running. So it was kind of interesting when it first all went down. We were it was just a weird time. Like we were like, oh, do we wear masks? Do we not wear masks? Like it was just, it's kind of chaotic for a while. But I'm actually moved to a different area now at work where I'm like enjoying it a lot more. I'm kind of near. We have an airport, so UPS owns an airport that's near the hub that I work at.
Wow.
So it's kind of just a little bit more low key, little nice. I actually work graveyard, so I go in at 3:30 and I get off about 6 or 6:30, and then I have the whole day just to work on art and just hang out or whatever. So
I was getting ready to ask you during the quarantine time if you were like heavy driven into drawing and getting as much work out, or was it like, hey, it's my family, let me hang out with these people?
Yeah, no, I felt like I was pretty headstrong and wanted to just really get a lot of work done, and that's kind of when things were starting to move forward, and I was starting to get a little bit of momentum. That wasn't Ronin hadn't dropped yet, so it was kind of, but I was still getting some other cool gigs, but it wasn't as crazy. But I was really, I was trying to work hard, and it wasn't too bad for me, honestly, because people were like, oh, I hated being stuck at home and all that stuff. But for me, it was like, okay, well, I already work from home as it is. So it wasn't too much of an adjustment or change for me, because I was already used to being in my office 24/7 working in my little dungeon, So.
Your little dungeon. Hey, that's where I keep Jack, in the dungeon. The dungeon's right back there, and that's where I keep Jack.
You're not the only person that refers to my like office as a dungeon. I work from home. So I was like, yeah, man. Like, the pandemic happened, and I see these memes where it's like someone working at their computer and like before the pandemic, and they're like after the pandemic, it's the same picture. I'm like,
yeah. So like, when people ask me like, oh, dude, have you been struggling? And I'm like, honestly, not really, bro. Like, I'm in the same position that I was before. So, no,
pretty much same here too.
I'm gonna lead into. Hold on, I'm totally gonna cut you off, Kat, because I'm gonna steal this from you, because I know how you feel about exclusives, and I have to ask: is there an exclusive? Is there something coming up, Aaron? Is there an Aaron Bartling project coming up that we should know about?
Thanks a lot, Jack. You're so mean.
I can say for sure that Ronin 2 is going to be dropped soon, and probably I would say this month probably is the next. That's probably my next big exclusive. Another cover for Line Breakers. So that'll be the next big one. I have a few other covers, little bit smaller, not as well known, but yeah. So definitely look out for Ronin 2. I think it's going to be cool. It's not as involved or crazy as the first one, but it has I think it's a cool concept, and I think people will like it. And actually, what's pretty crazy is just to explain for people that have read the first issue of Ronin, it's pretty wild because leading, like, if you've read the book, I'm not going to give away any spoilers.
I was getting ready to say, Jack, put up the spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
I won't say anything, but it's crazy because the first issue leading into number 2, I don't really know anything about number 2, but just based off of what I read with number 1, it was pretty crazy how aligned number 2 story-wise and concept the cover is to what it's like leading into. So we actually like got really lucky. In my opinion, that it's pretty cool. I think once you guys see it, you're like, oh, okay. Have you guys read the first issue yet or not?
Yes.
Okay.
So what happened was, I know the story because
you know what the is or no?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so I won't say anything, but it's cool the way that things ended with my Ronin 2 cover. It's cool because I had no idea. I went into it blindly. We literally just had a cool concept idea Denton and I went back and forth on, and it ended up kind of working out perfectly with it. So that's what I'm really excited for, is just that people to pick it up and think people will enjoy it. So
yeah.
So now you've got me all curious. I'm like looking at your cover, like were there foreshadowing things here? Because it is. I mean, for those of you who don't know, and again, I'm going to throw this up here just to be cautious, but it's not a spoiler. I'm not going to answer the question. But the big question when you got the book was, who the hell is the Last Ronin, right?
Yeah.
And so for those of you who don't know, I got my copy right here.
I have to wait my
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I had to get a copy at least.
Mine is waiting for me in the comic book store because my tire decided to be a jerk and flatten itself out. So,
but yeah, the answer is awesome. Like I said, because I loved the answer. I was like, that's freaking awesome. Did you grow up with Ninja Turtles?
Huh?
Did you grow up with Ninja Turtles?
Oh yeah, for sure, dude. Yeah, I loved it. I remember watching the original movie. Like I just had that nostalgic feeling, just watching it over and over. And I'd like, put on the keep. Can I watch Ninja Turtles again? Okay, son. Yeah, I'll put it on. It was just like, it was just like almost a daily thing. I had to watch it. It was like one of my favorite movies growing up.
Did you see it in the theaters? Like,
I didn't. No, I didn't see it in the theaters. It was on classic like VHS. About back when VHS was around.
I think it was like the second film that like I think it was my mom. She was like, "Oh, we're going to the grocery store. You have to get in the car." And I was old enough that I was like, "I don't want to go." And she was like, "Get in the car." And I was like, okay. And we drove up to this movie theater, and I was like, "What is happening?" And I like looked up at the sign. It said Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think it was like part 2, and I was just like, "Ah!" I was like that kid. I was just like so excited.
Yeah. It's awesome. Yeah. I think that's why my cover. I mean, not the other covers out there. I think there was 71 variants. Not that they didn't do well as also, because I know there's a lot of ones really good. But I think with mine, it was just what everyone kept on giving me feedback on was that it for some reason it brought on that emotional attachment of watching the movies and being so attached to the characters and that nostalgic feeling, and it was just like that overwhelming emotion, and that's what I think resonated with so many people and why they liked it so much. So
it reminds me of the original Turtles more than some of the other covers, I'll say.
Going into it, I wanted it to just be a very emotional, story driven cover. I didn't care about anything being cool or like an action factor. I just wanted something that when people looked at it, it struck a chord in them, where they were like, when they're like, oh, it hit me in the feels, like something like that, where it was like, it hit you in the feels when you looked at it. So, which was cool because I think that's what helped. That's what I think helped it stand alone as well, is because some of the other ones focus more on the action aspect or just like an action pose or something. I was happy with the direction that Denton and I decided to go on with it. So, but yeah.
Cat's still muted. There she is.
Oh, there I am. Yeah.
My bad.
I was like, Jack, I know you want to be center of attention, but I have a legit question. I have a real question. No, for those people that are starting out and don't know how to do too much as far as like submitting art, how does one go about, like, do you just go on like DC website and see what they need and you're like, oh, here's my art?
So there's so many. That's a great question. There's so many directions that you can go with. I think artists can do to network and to reach out to people. From what I've read and the people that I've talked to, if you go directly to the publishers, sometimes they don't get back to you, especially the big guys like DC or Marvel, because you got to think they're getting flooded with so many messages and emails every day, and a lot of it probably just goes to their spam accounts. So they're probably not responding to people. So for me, I didn't go that route because I thought, well, I'm just going to get mixed in with everyone else that's trying to contact them about getting possible work. So what I would encourage people to do, if you are an artist or you're thinking about trying to do this as a career or whatever, definitely networking and just putting yourself out there is like number one. So what I did is I would message different retailers, different publishers on Facebook or Instagram, and then a lot of times they would get back to me. Some people wouldn't, but a good amount of them did. And and then usually I would just do something like short and sweet. I would just say, hey, my name's Aaron Bartling. I would give a brief bio about myself, and I would maybe attach 5 to 10 art pieces.
Wow.
And really, it doesn't really matter what you say. I think it literally just comes down to your work. If your work is solid enough and it's on a professional level, it'll speak for itself. So they'll look at what you said, but they're going to look at your work. And then if it's good and they think, hey, this guy can make me some money, then, there's a good chance that they might get back to you. And then, you can develop, further. So for me, one of the main people that I got in contact with was Steven Finkel with the Comic Mint, which I've done several covers for now, and he was a big one that really liked my work, and he really saw something in my work that he felt like, okay, I can get this guy to a Shannon Mayer status one day, and like that's been his goal with me, is that he's told me, I'm vested in you, and my goal is to get you to the Shannon Mayer level, which obviously, you guys know, obviously Shannon's really successful now. He's, doing stuff for Marvel. He's doing stuff for DC. And as far as I can see, that guy is like, he's set, like he made it. So, so for me, that's kind of my goal, is moving forward, is just to work with people that are vested in you, that believe in you, and they see the potential that you have, because and at the end of the day, yes, like people will say like, oh, well, it's about the art, especially artists are like, oh, it's all about the art. But at the same time, these people are running a business, and they're in it to make money, so like if they look at your work and they think, hey, this guy has a lot of potential and he can make me some significant money, and I can make money off of it too, then there's going to be a solid working friendship relationship there. And so I think with me, since working in the industry, things have been pretty good for me. I've been doing pretty good with sales, having covers sell out and stuff. So for me, they're looking at that aspect where they're like, okay, can this guy deliver? Like, can he bring me, the kind of business that I'm looking for? and then that's what's going to keep bringing them back to you, to continue hitting you up for, hey, can you do this cover? Can you do this cover? And then if you just have knockout after knockout after knockout, then that's when you start getting people coming out of the woodwork. So you're going to have publishers and retailers all over the place thinking, hey, this guy is making a killing. He's selling out of everything. We want to work with him too, and then that's when you really start getting to a level of high success. So
I didn't even think about like reaching out to retailers. Like that wasn't even a thought to me. Like,
yeah, that's a big thing, is that for me, so with like line breakers, I can't remember if Denton reached out to me or I reached out to him. It doesn't really matter, but just reaching out to a retailer, that can actually be a really good thing, because if you get a cover that's really solid and it starts making the rounds on social media, then it's like, who knows what could happen. And another thing I'll say is that guys like Todd McFarlane, when they were coming into the industry, they had a physical portfolio that they were bringing to studios and showing these guys, hey, here's my art, will you hire me? And I think Todd McFarlane has a pretty amazing story where he was denied a lot of times, by the big guys, and he kept coming back and was persistent and diligent that he really wanted it. And so I would say that now more than ever, if you're an artist and you're trying to make it and you have the abilities, the skills to do it, now is the best time to do it, because you have literally no excuse. And I'm just saying that right now, like, you have zero excuse to not make it, because there's so many opportunities and avenues now with social media, because we have social media, and guys like them, they didn't have social media
no.
to be able to, it's like Ronin would have never been what it did if we didn't have social media.
Yeah.
People sharing it left and right, commenting on it, and getting those organic interactions. Like, that would have never happened if it was just a little old me, like, oh, here's my art piece, and people
But
like,
the big portfolio briefcase carrying it around, yeah.
Portfolio paper.
Like, let me unzip this. Hold on, let me undo the hooks.
Exactly.
Like, here you go. Yeah.
Exactly. So so it's like, right now is literally the best time to try to get work, because the possibilities are limitless. They really are. It's like you can reach out to thousands of people, and even if you don't hear back from a majority of them, guarantee that you're probably going to hear back from at least a few of them. And those few people might just be that one shot that you needed. So and like I would correlate what happened with me to I explain it almost like a musician or an actor. It's like you get these actors sometimes that come in, and they're they'll be in a role that's, they're an unknown actor, and people are like, oh, okay, this looks kind of cool, and they kill it, and then their career just explodes. Or a musician that has one single that comes out on the radio, and then everyone's like, oh my gosh, who's this artist? They're so legit. And then their career just explodes. And it's literally the same thing as being an illustrator, is that, like, if you can get that one art piece, like for me, it was the turtle cover, and that's when everything just exploded and my career took off. So it's like, you just need that one opportunity and that one shot. And even if it doesn't, because when I first started, things weren't really picking up and as explosive as it is now. So it's like, don't get discouraged. Like, you might feel down and things aren't really going the way you were hoping, but just keep trucking along, keep moving forward. And if you stick with it, I guarantee that eventually you'll get that shot or that one art piece that'll blow up or go viral.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you needed. You just needed that one thing, and the rest is history.
And that's what I was gonna ask you, like, about social media. So, like, being consistent on Instagram versus Twitter would be more ideal for an artist.
Yeah.
And should an artist just rely on Instagram, or should they have a website as well? Or what's your opinion on that? Because there's no right answer.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many different avenues that you can go. So for me personally, I do have a Twitter, not really active on it. I think I only have like a couple posts. But honestly, my go-to social media account is just my Facebook. I feel like I've had the most success, the most traction with Facebook, and my Instagram is okay. Some artists, I would say, if you're an artist, Instagram is better than anything else, better than Twitter, better than Facebook. Some artists have a ton of success with it, where they're getting, they have 1 million fans, and their stuff's getting shared all over the place. For me, it's been like kind of like it's been okay. Facebook has just been kind of my go-to social media that's really helped me gain the level of success that I've had. So I think it really. So to answer your question, to kind of sum that up, I would say just experiment. Just see what works for you. So, Instagram doesn't work that great for me, but it might be amazing for someone else. Whereas, it could be a vice versa situation. So, yeah. So.
Jack, do you have any more questions? Oh, I didn't see that one.
I have a million questions. Are you kidding me? But yeah, we've hit 40 minutes, so I don't.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm like, I know he's probably like busy. It's
no, you guys. I'm having a great time talking to you guys.
Okay, cool. I'm always nervous.
I'll be honest. Like, I was checking out some black and white work while you guys were talking. I love it.
Yeah.
Excellent grayscale.
Yeah, I love black and white.
What is this? Is this a metal cover?
I forgot about that cover, man. That's like a crazy. I don't even remember. So that's the thing too, is I do a lot of indie covers, and some of these indie writers, they have these crazy characters and stories. I don't even remember the name of this comic, to be honest. Oh, I think it's called Dante Eternal, I think, or something like that. But it's a horror comic, obviously, and
I thought it was a romance.
Yeah, it's romance with a little bit of horror. It's a tiny bit of horror though. It's like most of it's romantic, but yeah. So I have these like random, indie covers, and sometimes they're really fun because they'll have these like really interesting storylines, and so it's cool.
Are your kids old enough to know what you do?
No, they're all little youngins. They're my daughter just turned 3, and then my son is 1. So they're they don't really. I mean, my 3-year-old, she likes to draw, which is cool. It's exciting for me because I think she's going to be artistic. So I've thought, I'm like, oh, cool. She'll be like my little protege or whatever. So that's exciting for me, as a dad, just to have my like, oh man, you can be better than me one day. I would love that. That'd be so cool.
Dude, if she matches you or goes better than you, which would be like insane, I would not be surprised, because I mean, you keep saying that you're decent and all this other, but it's really amazing what you do. Because it's definitely, I like, and I've said this a million times, and I'm pretty sure the viewers are sick of me saying it, but I'm going to say it anyway. I like uniqueness. I like different. I like not seeing the exact same thing twice. And when I was looking at your artwork, it definitely wasn't like anything I've seen before. Even though, I said that Marcus Williams also knows how to do the light the right way, yours is still different enough that it kept my attention. that's the important part. Does it keep my attention?
I would say too, so kind of like to piggyback on what you just said, I think another thing that's really, really like almost the most important thing I would say for a strong art piece is to tell a story with it, because that's ultimately what we're doing with comics. And it literally is judging a book by its cover, and it's like, it's such a cool feeling for me as an illustrator. Probably, honestly, one of the best feelings is to have people say, I either wasn't really into comics or I'm into comics, but a lot of books don't really interest me. But like, okay, take for example, Stillwater. I don't know if you guys saw my Stillwater cover for Image. That book is not super well known. I actually didn't do that cover.
Okay.
Cover that. But there's one that I did, and it's not a super well known book, I don't think, from what I've seen. But I had people messaging me, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, like the cover looks so cool. It made me want to pick up the book, you know, and
Oh, that's cool.
it had that there was a storytelling element, and so I would say that's, you know, what if you are doing covers and you're working in comics, you know, having your colors and your values and all that are great, you know, and all those things need to happen. But I think the most important thing is being able to tell a story and having a storytelling element, and that's what really draws people in, because I think that's what people connect with the most is
Yeah.
humans love story. You know, we love movies, we love books, you know, and hearing stories. We connect we connect with them on a very deep level, and so I think if you're able to connect your viewer with the cover having a strong storytelling element or a narrative, I think, yeah, there we go, that's it. So
Oh, wow.
I think that's
And let
what.
me just say, it's a great example of use of light.
Yeah. 100%.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a fun one. I actually used my daughter as a reference for that one.
Oh, wow.
Nice. Love it.
So that I use I shoot a lot of my own reference, and then I'll use that for my paintings. So um, I'll set up my own lighting and all that kind of stuff, and then yeah. So
But that's the example, like that's a perfect example of what I've been saying, because even like the background, the blue in between the trees, it gives it that eerie feel without it being muddled, if that makes sense,
And
like
depth.
Yeah.
muddied up and
There's
stuff
a
like
lot of
that.
depth.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can feel like the creepiness of the woods and stuff like that because of the way the light is in that blue.
yeah, yeah, and like another thing is like, you know, if you look at it, so all the hues and the tones of her and the trees in the front are like really shifted in the greens, and then the background is more of a, you know, a bluish gray hue. So if I would have done the whole cover in a blue, or excuse me, if I would have done the whole cover in a green, shifted all the colors into the green, then she wouldn't have stood out as much.
Mhm.
She would have not stood out from the background. So that's why making those artistic choices, that will just help you to have a more successful piece. So that's why, you know, I did more of a bluish background, because I knew, okay, she's going to come forward from the background
Mhm.
since she's the focal point. So
Jack, can you throw up the Joker one that he did? I actually have two questions about that Joker one that you did. The first one I can ask without having without it being up. The charcoal effect, was that so? Is that like a stroke of the pen that you use, or is that like how do you explain the charcoal looking effect?
yeah, it's all just brushes and just mark making that I do. I used to have a ton of brush. Well, I still do have a ton of brushes, and you know, some people make it like this huge thing about, if you're working in Photoshop, oh, what brushes do you have? And really, it's just about mark making. You know, brushes help, but it's just you know, I like certain things can help you achieve different looks. But
Gotcha.
you know, I just have a couple of these like really textured brushes that kind of give that gritty kind of
Okay.
feel to it.
Because it looks like real charcoal. Like it looks like it's a real charcoal
Yeah,
painting. Yeah.
that's cool.
And then the second question is that shadow. Did you purposely make it look like Batman?
I did. I like, and it's funny because now, looking, it's just, as an artist, you know, this piece is pretty old actually. I think this is from like over a year ago I did that,
Oh, wow.
and it's funny now because now when I'm looking at it, you know, I just see all the mistakes with it, and there's just things like
I am so mad at you. Like I'm gonna end this friendship because you're like mistakes, and I'm like, it's perfect. Like I'm confused.
like like, yes, the Batman shadow was intentional, but that shadow is just so hard. It's such a hard line. I think I would have softened that shadow a little bit. If I had to do it over, it was just very it's a little bit too hard. So
And I'm like, it works. And I'm like, it looks good.
yeah,
Like,
the edges you would have softened as opposed to like an opacity kind of thing.
What was that?
I was gonna say, when you said you're gonna soften, you might have softened the shadow if you were redoing it now. Do you mean the edges of it that you would have softened?
Yeah. So the edges are very hard, and
Gotcha.
that kind of like it kind of would imply that the light is very close to his head, and it's
Mm.
casting a shadow that's like if you took a ball and a ellipse and you put the light right next to it, like a very close light, the
Mm.
shadow on the shadow side of that ball would closest to the ball would have a hard shadow, and um, as the light continues, that shadow would soften.
Mm.
So I mean, I guess it could work, but I think looking back, like I think it could have used maybe a slightly softer shadow for the edges. But
How do you like know these things, like as far as like if you the light to the ball thing, like obviously well, not obviously, I've seen how it is. Shut up,
yeah,
Jack. I've seen how it is, but like for those that are struggling with figuring out the shadow, did you YouTube it, was it a book, like how did you know?
I think a lot of it is so. I I don't think I really answered your question fully when it comes to the art stuff. So that'll kind of like how I started with art. So this will kind
Mhm.
of actually give a more solid answer to that.
Okay.
So, I took art seriously about 10 years ago. And when I say I took it seriously, I did a mentorship for
Oh,
2 years under a professional artist working for an actual studio in New York.
wow.
So that helped me gain a lot of knowledge. That's kind of when my skills really went up, and that's when I started learning about values and colors and structure and composition, anatomy, all that stuff. So, and then I also started taking like figure drawing classes, and then just a lot of honestly, like I learned a lot from YouTube too. So if you're an artist and you're trying to learn stuff, going on YouTube, there is so many different sources of content that you can find on, color theory and how to use values and how to use edges, how to use soft and hard edges. There's such a surplus of content out there that you can like. I legit think that you could get to a professional level just off of practice and YouTube. Like honestly, because there's just so.
YouTube's a game changer, right?
It is.
Yeah, that's why like I don't believe in art school anymore. Like not that it's like if you're going to art school, great, and you'll probably get a job because you'll have not only the paper but the skill too.
Mhm.
But for me, it's like, okay, well, I'm working professionally now, and I didn't get a degree, so it's like it is possible to do it without a degree. You just have to work your freaking butt off to do it, and you can
Yeah.
do it. But it's like I'm not $200,000 in debt now because of an art school, which is what you're going to
Right.
pay if you go to any high quality like school like Cal Arts or something. Your tuition expenses are probably going to be about 200K when it's all said and done. So
That's
and the sad thing about it is there's a lot of times where these people get a degree, they'll go to they'll go to a company like EA, say they're going for as a concept artist, they'll go to EA or Riot or any of these other studios, and they won't get a job, and they either never get a job or it takes them years to get a job, and it's like, well, you're working at Starbucks, you're 200K in debt, you have a degree from Cal Arts, but you're not even doing what you love to do. And then
Mm.
Joe Schmo off the street, who's a friggin' baller artist with no degree, they're like, actually, this guy's abilities kind of cater better to what we're looking for, so we're going to hire him. So I feel like now it's like you can do mentorships like what I did, where in total I probably only spent a few $1,000s, for what kind of training that I got, or you can do the YouTube, or you can do classes. There's classes online where you can
Mhm.
pay, it'll be like $500 a class or something. So
Mhm.
even if you only spent $10,000 or $15,000 and you've got a ton of amazing content that you're not only learning from the content but also applying it with practice, you can reach the professional level. It's just a matter of your dedication and how motivated you are, and then you don't have to have the art school. So for me, that's what I did, and it worked out for me. And I would suggest it for other people that don't do the art school thing. Oh, that piece is awful too. I hate that piece.
And I'm like, and I'm sitting here like beautiful, and he's like, no, it's awesome. Oh, it's awful. It's terrible. And I'm like,
what's wrong with this?
yeah, I'm like,
There's so many things I hate about that piece now.
like I can't even right now. Oh yes, I can see it now. The fire isn't like real fire, and obviously
it's not real fire.
It's not real fire. That's what's awful about the piece. I got it. Like I can't even with you right now, Aaron. Like you're like it's awful, and I'm halfway through saying it's so beautiful, and he's like, I'm like, I don't know anything. I need new prescriptions apparently.
Humble.
I think so. I think it's a little different than humble because like it's really I don't know. I love it. I don't know how much my opinion matters, but I loved it.
Just cover the screen. That is a horrible one too.
Oh Jesus, I can't. Like, I can't deal with the statements that are coming out of your mouth.
Looking at it, I hate it.
What is it? All right, just out of curiosity, I have to
Let's
ask,
break this down. Let's break Aaron's awful artwork down. Help me understand this.
Where to even start? Well,
he's killing me.
The structure is not that great. Let's see. The values are not that great. The colors are looking a little bit muddy. The anatomy is kind of like, it's okay. I could use some work.
I can't with you right now.
The face is like getting a little muddled, and I don't like that fire rendering at all. The fire effects that it did.
The fire seems to be
but yeah,
is that something you specifically work on?
It's just kind of it's an okay piece.
You can't.
Anyways, I'm much more proud of the stuff I'm doing now than back.
Oh, but that's awesome, right? Like when you can see, like you know, like I'm proud of what I'm doing now, which means growth.
At this point, like I'm like pretty thoroughly satisfied, you know, and it like with my work, and not to say that like I'm done, because I'm never gonna be done. Mm-hmm. It's always a constant, continual journey of growing and getting better. But I'm pretty happy and satisfied with kind of the direction that my work been going.
I can't, like I'm still replaying the whole. I'm halfway through saying the word beautiful, and he's like, "Oh, it's awful," and I'm like, I know nothing. I was actually going to ask you about the practicing. Have you ever tried to do something outside of your style just to see if you could pull it off?
Not really. I've been pretty consistent and just being stuck with kind of the style and look that I've been doing. Mm-hmm. But I will say that something that I really wanted to do is get back into doing traditional stuff. And so I actually picked up, I have a big pad of watercolor paper over there, and I want to start working in gouache. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
I'm not.
Gouache is it's a watercolor kind of paint, but it's more opaque than watercolor. So you can get, like, if you do a sketch, and then you start laying down just some like light hues over the whole thing, and with almost like a wash. So it's like a wet wash, and that way you can establish kind of your basic hues or tones that you're going for. And then it's cool because watercolor is super transparent, which is fine. But what's cool about gouache is you can start, once it starts drying, you can add more layers on it. So almost more similar to like an acrylic or an oil, where you can layer it up. And so it starts having like that real opaque, deep kind of look. So obviously you guys probably know who Alex Ross is, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so Alex Ross works.
I've heard of him before.
Yeah, I think I've heard of him.
Sounds familiar.
But he worked pretty much exclusively in gouache. So that's why specifically what I want to get into is it's called acrylic gouache. So it's gouache, but it has a little bit of acrylic paint in it, so it's even more opaque. But anyway, I say all this to say that once Comic-Cons come back, hopefully next year, if cons come back, my goal is to start, getting a huge commission list and start doing traditional stuff, because I know people love, especially comic collectors, they love traditional.
Mm-hmm.
I've done a pretty hefty amount of digital commissions. So I'll paint it digitally and then I'll print it on a really high quality paper. And some people love it, but I've had, I can't tell you how many times I've had people uh, that have, walked away from getting a potential commission because they're like, oh, sorry, I really love your work, but I don't like anything digital. I like only traditional.
Oh, wow, that's
Uh,
crazy.
That's really hurt me. That's really hurt me and making more money, to be honest, because it's like, well, I'm just, excuse me, I'm just hurting myself by not being able to have that ability to do
Mm-hmm.
traditional as well.
hmm.
So that's why I'm like, okay, I want to take this time to start practicing and getting, somewhat decent at it, and then maybe just like start out small, just do like little portraits or nothing crazy like he's doing. That's like full on crazy scenes and stuff. I'm not ready for that yet. Like, he's on another, he's like legendary status. So
Yeah.
but yeah, maybe just some portraits, maybe some busts and from the waist up or whatever, and get like somewhat decent at that, and then maybe I'll put them out there and see if anyone bites, and maybe they'll start hitting me up to do some private commissions. So I think that'd be cool. It'd be nice to have some cover work and some commission work, especially once Comic Cons come back. So.
Yeah, that's what I'm
I
praying
think
for.
people don't realize and forget how important, artists are trying to make a living. Comic book artists, they have
Yeah,
to think about these things. There's
yeah,
a system, there's a skill set, and there's
yeah,
tasks sort of to hit to make a living, right? Just because you do
yeah.
a cover does not mean that you're suddenly like, oh, I'll retire. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. And like in art for me, like it's been, to be honest, it's been kind of difficult because I, not that I've fallen away from loving art or like the love of arts, but sometimes I really struggle with the love of art and the love of money, and
Oh.
it's kind of hard to, because like you hear a lot of people, artists are like, well, it's not about the money, it's about the passion, and it's about the love of art, and it's not about the money. But if you are a professional illustrator and you are doing this full time, it is kind of about the money, and like
Mhm.
and so I have to think that way, Jack, like what you said, where it's like I'm constantly thinking about how can I make more, or how can I be more successful, because like you said, it's like, okay, once that one
mhm.
cover is done, you already got paid for it, cool, you shot over the PayPal, boom, okay, I confirmed, I got it done, okay, what's on to the next thing,
What's next?
what
Yeah.
else can I do to try to bring,
Mhm.
especially if you have a family too, is even more so, because you have the responsibility of, my wife's a stay-at-home mom, so I'm thinking about, okay, how can I provide? And I'm not gonna lie, things have been great, and finances have been pretty awesome for me, and I've been really blessed. But I am constantly thinking about how can I do more, like, and like
Yeah.
an example would be, so there's these Ronin poster prints,
Oh wow.
and people got these, and
Oh
Oh.
yeah.
so I did a like splinter remark. I don't know if the
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
That's cool.
Those things are freaking awesome. There
Yeah.
you go. Perfect.
so I did
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
splinter remark,
Yeah.
and it's like, it's great, it's like, it's stuff like that where I'm just trying to think like, okay, what are other avenues to bring in income, where it's like, okay, I know a ton of
Mhm.
people got these Ronin posters or prints that are like very limited, and a lot of people are like, oh, I really want a remark. So it's like, cool, I can charge what I charge for a remark, and people will send them to me, and that's just another extra way to make
Mhm.
200 extra bucks here and there or whatever. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's just kind of, it's not only like, if you want to be a successful artist, well, my brightness is way down, that's weird, but it's not all of a sudden I was like, oh, it's all bright.
Because you're about to speak some truth.
Yeah, it was like dark, and then I like lightened my screen. But
Dramatic.
it's not only about doing the art. Like, you also, if you want to be successful, you need to also think business wise too, and have kind of that business street smarts where you're thinking like, okay, how can I be more successful? How can I make more money. And I'm not saying like money is everything, because it's not everything.
No, but you
But
still need to eat.
but nowadays, like
Yeah.
it's expensive to live, and
Yeah.
like if you have a family and stuff, like you got to think about being as successful as you can to try to bring in as much income. Because I mean, not like who's gonna say, oh, having more money is bad. Like I'm so depressed now. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
no, your life's gonna be easier. It's gonna be less stressful.
Yeah.
Well, most families, they fight and they argue about finances. That's one of the number one things that
Yeah.
people get divorced over is finances.
It's the number one thing that people
Yeah.
fight about.
It is. It
Couple.
really is.
Yeah, so that's just something to think about and something to, try to contemplate and be successful at. So
Well, I appreciate the honesty because a lot of times it's somewhat taboo to talk about it. So a lot
yeah,
of the guests kind of shy away from that.
yeah,
Um, and I don't really ever ask either because we live in that in between world where
yeah,
is it still taboo or is it okay? Like what are we
Yeah.
doing? So I appreciate that you're very honest and open about that because it's true.
Yeah.
It is your business. You have to
yeah,
have that business mentality because if
yeah.
you don't, who's gonna do it? Nobody.
Exactly. And then and it's what's awesome for me too is that I like breaking the stereotype, and I can't tell you how many times that I've had people, I tell them what I do, and like they'll either give me like kind of like a oh okay, or they kind of like get awkward, or they just have like kind of taken aback. Like I'll say, oh, I'm working in the comic industry, and I think most people, they have a negative, not a negative, it doesn't have a negative connotation, but I think they think that most people, like if you're an artist, is you're a starving artist.
Starving artist. That's what I was gonna say. It's not
Right.
so much negative. It's just the stigma. Starving
Yeah,
artist. It's
yeah,
like,
that like you have to be the lawyer, you have to be the firefighter, you have to be the cop, you have to be the whatever to make decent money. And it's like I want to break that stereotype where no, I like there's many artists that I know that are making 100,000 a year, as freelancers. It is entirely possible, and there's a lot of people that are doing it.
yeah,
And it's like I want to break that stereotype to be like, yes, you can love art and you can make great money doing it too. And right now, like I'm making pretty decent money doing it, and it's exciting. So
But you have to be
uh,
business minded, right?
yeah,
yeah,
100%.
exactly. So
That's including marketing, finance,
yeah, all of
making
it.
sure laws are covered. Like
Yeah,
don't want to definitely step on that. Yeah, it's a lot. It is 100% having your own business, and yeah, you can have the support of your loved ones, which
yeah,
is great because we all need that positive reinforcement, especially from those closest to us. But at
yeah,
the end of the day, we love our loved ones, but it's not their dream,
yeah,
and it's up to the writer, artist, host, whatever, to
yeah,
ensure that their dream becomes a reality.
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Great note to end on.
yeah.
I definitely want you back, Aaron.
I would love
Definitely.
to come back. I would love that.
Yes.
I'd
Yay.
love
I think this is the first time I've requested a guest to come. No, oh, no, this is the second time. Second time I've requested a guest to come back.
We're gonna
Eric
get
was
Twitter messages about this.
Awesome.
I'm 100% about to get all the guests before, like, didn't you love me enough to ask me back? I'm like, don't at me, people. Don't at me.
Like, you're on the B list, so
I
maybe.
know, right? There's an A list and a B list.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
we've got
It's
our
nice
movie
though to have
stars.
the honesty about the business side of it. We constantly hear
Yeah.
from artists that really want to like focus on the I don't know, I have a good word for it, but the artistic side of
yeah,
things. And it's like that's
yeah.
great, but how do you pay your bills?
Mhm.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's like, and I hate, like, sorry to go on about it, but it's like,
No,
I
it's
hate
good.
when people are, say, like, well, dude, bro, like they get all like hipster about it and they're like, dude, it's all about the art, bro. It's all, and it's like, no, dude,
No, it's all about eating and clothes and
successful with my art and make a lot of money doing it. Like
yeah,
being raw and honest, like that's the dead hard truth.
yeah,
Like, I mean, and I'm not saying that I don't love the art because I do.
yeah.
But
You
hey,
can love the art and still need the money.
yeah, and if I can make the money doing it, like doing what
Yeah,
you love, more power to you. You know, why not?
No. And you've given
If you
like
do what you
so
love,
many.
you never work.
Yeah. Do what you love, you never work.
Yeah.
But we tend to have like a lot of younger artists or people just starting off, and you've given so much great information that they need to. I hope they have a pen and paper and have been writing it down, or they can rewatch it and take notes that way, because this has been so enlightening and so informational. And I like that, because like I said, we have a lot of, I don't want our viewers to be like, well, he made it and all he's talking about is how, him. But
Yeah.
I like that the process of it all and stuff like that, because I also learn too. Not that I'm an artist, but I just like learning things. Obviously, I'm not an artist because I loved your art, and you're like, no, that's awful. So
We won't go back to those art pieces. But
I'm just,
I
I can't.
just let me know.
Right.
Yeah.
But Aaron, thank you so much for taking time and talking to us, because Jack interrupted and stole one of my questions. Hey, but I really do appreciate it. I had so much fun. Everybody go follow Aaron. He's barely on Twitter, so go to his Facebook, #1 spot, and then follow his Instagram so you can see all the beautiful but crappy work.
Don't stay at the bottom of the feed. Just stay at the top. That's where all the new stuff is.
Scroll through everything. It's beautiful. He's just one of those self-critics. So it's always
highly critical.
So it's all beautiful. Go follow. And as always, like, share, subscribe, share this video with an artist that you love. Take notes on this video if you're an artist, because it was jam-packed with information. And as always, I'll see you guys next Wednesday. Bye, everyone.